recording. I'm praying. I've learned lots of new things. Yeah, I locked out the dogs. I locked out my dogs, and I have their collars on.
Yep, there it is. Yep, our dogs. Thankfully, he's okay. He's okay for the most part. If someone knocks at our door, you guys may hear some barking, but other than that,
Yeah,
it should be good.
Uh-oh. Facebook says there's an error. So let's try that again.
We can't have any errors right now.
Yeah, it's saying error. Can't go live on Facebook.
Oh.
That didn't happen yesterday in rehearsal.
We got a nice little crowd, huh? We got the Hawkins, Nate Wood, Tammy.
A lot of these people you've met at the banquet.
Oh, okay. We got Ryder,
All right.
Abby, Cade. Are we good?
Well, Facebook won't go live from my. Oh, let me make you a co-host, Matt.
Facebook won't go live.
Facebook will not go live.
That's the best part about technology.
Right?
It works until you actually need it.
Till I need it to work. Well, we can. I am recording this, so I can put it on Facebook later. But yeah. I think we broke Facebook. It won't go live, so that is okay. We got people logging in and recording to my computer at least. So we're going to wait a couple more minutes for people to log in, and we will get started. And I will keep trying to
get Facebook Live to work.
You getting some good rest, Justin?
What's that?
Getting some good rest?
Oh yeah, this has been great rest. We've actually really been enjoying. Obviously, it stinks not being able to do much, but we've really enjoyed the family time. Off season, obviously, I'm home a lot more, so Taryn's kind of used to me being around, but I think Lainey's really enjoying kind of both of us being at her beck and call. It feels 24/7. I mean, that girl is on go all the time, but she's been good. But yeah, we've been enjoying it. It stinks because we had a family trip set up to go to Disney last month, and then we had to push it back obviously till next year just because I'm not even sure how long this is gonna last. So
right.
How have you guys been doing?
Doing good. Yeah, working from home. Kids are home and so forth. So we're all trying to navigate school and work from home. But, hanging in there.
Yeah.
Best of the situation. And you getting some ways to work out in?
Yeah, trying to navigate that too. We honestly just ordered a bunch of stuff off Amazon Prime to kind of help us.
Bunch of weight.
Yeah, just the little things we may not get, because obviously down here we don't have anything, because we're normally going back to Denver here soon and getting ready to do stuff, and I can't go to my gym, so we're ordering just the little things pull-up bar, push-up stuff, just things that you can do, I guess, consistently throughout the day that'll help. But
body weight
exercises.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
All right. Well, we're going to go ahead and get started officially. Welcome, everybody. It's so fun to see everybody's faces. Most of you guys I know. If I don't know you, my name's Tina Snover. I'm with FCA in Western Colorado, and it is a pleasure to have you here today. If everybody just give me a wave, make sure we're live. I will unmute later, but it does help to mute everybody. So I feel bad muting you because I'm usually the loud one that gets muted. So I feel your pain. But we have an exciting time today to be with you guys. We are just, looking for hope and joy in this very uncertain and unprecedented time. And my prayer is the next 30 minutes brings that to you, that this is a fun time to come together and use technology for good, not as a crutch or as an addiction, which we could pray for as well in this time of COVID. But we are excited that you guys are here and hope to have a good time. As you guys know, have tuned in to connect with my friend Justin Simmons. He's in Florida right now, which is where he's from, and spends his off season with his wife Taryn and daughter Lainey, who I believe is napping, which is kind of why we set the time now that Lainey stays asleep, and maybe Taryn can pop on later and say hi. And
Yeah.
I've also invited my friend Matt Kennedy. Many of you guys may know Matt. Matt is about to graduate from Colorado Mesa University virtually, gonna graduate. I guess not allowed to walk.
In my graduation, that's a first.
Yeah. And Matt has been an FCA kid since high school. He's been in the ministry. He's done camps and retreats, and he's been one of our CMU FCA leaders for years now at the college. But he's also a mass comm major, and he's been working a lot with Jim Davis on our local sports talk radio, and he's a writer. Matt is actually growing to be one of my favorite sports writers, and he's so young. So I'm very excited for his future in sports talk radio writing and communicating. And I invited Matt in today to get to catch up with Justin and talk a little football. We're going to talk a little Jesus, and it's going to be fun. Now, I want to introduce, these are my daughters. This is Brene.
Hi.
And Lizzie.
Hi.
And we have on our Justin Simmons jerseys. Go Broncos. We hope we have a season. Some of you guys also brought, Bodie's got his Bronco gear on and some other things. So I may send you a free pizza, Bodie, just for wearing your Bronco gear. But welcome. We're glad you're here. I'm going to keep trying to go live on Facebook. But Matt, if you want to shoot out some questions to Justin, I know he's fun to interview. So have a great time.
No, Justin, first and foremost, I mean, just how's it going? How are you doing? This whole life situation has been changing for a lot of people. How are you doing personally?
Yeah. We're doing well. I think, just like everyone else, it's an adjustment, and we're kind of rolling with the punches with it. And, we got a bunch of stuff going on. Obviously it was contract season last year. And so with that, a lot of unknowns going into this year. And then obviously we were franchise tagged, and just a whole bunch of different things going on. We're in the process now of trying to figure out how we're going to move houses in Denver without actually being there because of everything that's going on. We only had the house that we're currently in South Florida, renting it only for a couple months because we planned on going back to Denver, but now we have to find ways to get all that stuff back on. So, I mean, just like everyone else, I'm sure has stuff that they're going through. We're just trying to navigate and trust the Lord in the process and everything that's going with that. But we're also finding joys in it. I mean, I think like stuff like this is super cool. We've done Bible studies via Zoom and like group FaceTimes, and it's just been fun. Fun in the aspect of trying to, find new ways to stay socially active while also being distant. So.
Yeah, and I remember meeting you a couple of years ago. It was right after your rookie year. You got drafted back in 2016 out of Boston College, and you just kind of took off from there. This last year was your best year in a lot of people's eyes. So what has this offseason been like? Obviously, you drew a lot of attention. You were projected to, go to free agency, but Broncos ended up tagging you long-term, and you guys are working toward a long-term deal. How's the relationship between you and Elway and Coach Fangio, and how did that whole process go between looking forward to being a Bronco long-term?
Yeah, it was great. I remember right after the season ended, I went up to we had our like player exit meetings, which basically means you meet with every coach that coaches you on the staff. So I met with my DB's coach, the defensive coordinator, Vic, and I met with Elway. And that's kind of like the progression you take. And I went up to Elway's office, and it was just really cool. I had the chance to just tell him, I don't know what's going to happen, but I want to just come up and make sure I shook your hand and said thank you for the last 4 years, because you guys took a shot on me, gave me an opportunity to play at the professional level, gave me an opportunity to start, showed up most trust in my abilities and what I can do. And so, I don't know the or whatever. I want to be here, but I just wanted to say thank you. And that was a really cool conversation because a lot of the times, Jim, that was a really cool, I thought that was a really cool conversation for both of us to have. And I'd like to think it worked out a little bit because we're back at least for one more year in Denver, but it's been good. And this offseason's has been great. I think what really happened last season and playing under a contract year and not knowing what's going to happen, I could play great, I could play poorly. I think for us, that was such a big season of growth in the Lord because we had an opportunity to really just rest in the fact that, we could try as hard as we can or do whatever we can. And we should try as hard as we can, but ultimately it's going to be in his hands and his plan. And if we were meant to do well, we will. And if we weren't, we won't. So resting in that and knowing that like, I'm going to work as hard as I can at what I'm doing, but the outcome will never change on God's scale. I think that for me was the hardest pill to swallow, but it was, so humbling. So
are you guys working towards a long-term deal? Can you give any details if that's a possibility?
Yeah. Obviously the last 4 times, the last 4, I believe. The last 4 times guys got franchise tagged, a long-term deal was worked on. And honestly, like, I wish I could give you more, but because of the COVID-19, like stuff get pushed back. I know the draft is still going on, but OTAs are getting pushed back. Who knows if training camp gets pushed back? I don't even know if the season's going to get pushed back yet. So all that stuff has a big effect on potentially getting a long-term deal done because you're talking about TV ratings going down, money not coming in, all that stuff matters. So I wish I could give you the actual update on that, but obviously a long-term deal is something that both sides would want to get done.
Right. I don't mean to stick on or to bring back COVID, but that's really what's affecting the whole entire sporting world right now. And obviously you just said the season's up in the air. You guys haven't pushed back anything when it comes to, training camp or the season, any regular season games. But what are you guys hearing on a player aspect of what the season's potentially looking like? Has anything developed in the last week from Roger Goodell or from the higher ups in your organization?
Nothing that we officially know, like nothing that we know that I don't think the general public doesn't know. I will say that I, for one, thought when this first started that it might be a month or so and then it would kind of start to settle back down and we would be good to go. But as you see, I think like every week that's going by, it's starting to get more and more strict. And so with that being said, like, it's, it doesn't look great in terms of, being able to say things are going to get done. I think football still might be played maybe to a lesser degree. It's really tough to say. But I know nothing officially, like, the draft is still going to happen on the same dates. It's just going to be modified, right? Because not everyone can meet up in Las Vegas. And, so things like that, but it's going to be, it's definitely going to be a weird dynamic, something that I don't think any of us obviously have ever experienced. And so it's going to be different for sure.
Definitely. Have you had to make any major changes when it comes to your routine? Obviously, you can't go to the gym. You can't go back to Denver, use the facilities there. You're kind of stuck in Florida right now trying to move and stuff. How are you guys are being forced to stuck inside? You mentioned that you bought some stuff off Amazon, but is that really enough to stay in professional athlete shape?
Yeah. We do the best that you can. It's definitely tough. Not to make it sound like crazy like that, but because in Denver, we have a bunch of workout stuff in our Denver home, right? Because that's where I spend the season and I need to get, work out when I'm at home and all these different things. And so but down here in South Florida, like we really got this space to hang out with family and definitely friends. And so we didn't plan on being here long. They don't really have much. And the times we do work out, we both go to our gym and we have trainers. Can't do that, obviously. And so, yeah, it's kind of this weird thing. So now we're ordering stuff off of Amazon and we're hoping to just stay fit, stay in shape. We went on a run. We go on runs almost every day. It's nice when you have mom and dad that can babysit or at least come by. for a little bit. And yeah, like I said, we're just trying different things. We're doing all the different challenges that you see on Instagram and Facebook and all these different exercise challenges. We actually have both of our trainers do a great job of sending us like at-home workouts that are honestly pretty exhausting without even really needing weights. And it's just different, it's all different, and working your body differently. And so it's an adjustment though, for sure.
So I have a question, Justin. Before COVID-19, had you and Taryn ever attempted the koala bear challenge?
No. I actually saw a couple of couples do it, and I think the actual challenge is for the male to actually stand still and like just have the wife or the woman like just work her way through to start and finish the same way she started. I think that's how you actually do it. Obviously, Taryn and I cheated. Like I helped her and I helped her again. Like we cheated, but I saw a couple people that the guy was literally standing still and the wife just, I was
highly
amazed
entertaining. Highly. If you don't know what that is, go ahead and Google koala bear challenge video.
Yeah. If you're bored and you have a significant other, you will knock yourselves out. That's at least a couple hours out of your day.
Great workout.
Justin, let's talk about this defense real quick. Kind of a last football question, but Vic Fangio's defense, you kind of saw it last year for the first time, and with that Donatel, and now you guys are bringing in some new people. Obviously, Chris Harris Jr. is leaving, but AJ Bouye and Jarrell Casey and everybody that's going to be in this new defense. How excited are you for what this year is going to bring? And have you been able to really talk to the new guys at all? And what do you see your role being as as the leader this year on the Broncos D?
Yeah, man, I'm so excited. I think it's going to be great. I can't wait. I think so many additions on our defense that are just going to help everyone else play better. Like Chubb coming back, having Shelby come back. We have Jarrell Casey. We just got so many guys. Mike Purcell coming back. I mean, both of our inside linebackers being there. Obviously, the secondary. You can't replace someone like Chris, but I've personally watched AJ Bouye for a couple of years now, and seeing what he's done in Jacksonville. I'm so excited to have him as a teammate and getting to know him. I know he played with Kareem a little bit, and Kareem speaks highly of him when they were in Houston together. And so I'm excited, man. And having Bryce coming back healthy, I think we have a chance on defense to do something real special, especially being in Vic's second year of his system, being able to learn it and actually execute it at a higher level. And I think we saw, anyone here that is, a big Broncos fan and watched the games, I think you saw a good bit of it last year. There were stretches in games where it's like, man, this team is really good. And then, we couldn't find ways to finish the game or couldn't find ways to sustain what we were doing. But I think being in year two, just all around the board, being in year two, have some fresh faces come in, some new weapons on offense, definitely some big key plugins on defense. I think we're going to do something really special. So it stinks because, I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm praying we get to play because I'm really excited for us. So
awesome. Tina, what you got?
I was just enjoying everybody's videos. I'm looking through. It's so great. I forgot to mention, if you guys have a question for Justin, you can, if you scroll at the bottom and hit chat, the menu board will show up if you're new to Zoom, and you can hit chat and you can text everybody in chat, or you can actually do one-on-one texting as well. But we do have a couple questions. And but before we get to live questions, I'll let you guys talk. I want to make sure I'm still good here. Okay, a bunch of people are texting me. Sorry. But Justin, just spiritually speaking, how do you see this time as God still in control?
I think it's great. I honestly don't think personally, like God is using COVID-19 to check on our spiritual hearts and see where we're at. I don't think he's like, hey, I'm going to spread an epidemic to make sure you're in a right relationship with me. I don't think that's how that works. But I do believe that in this time, I think it is challenging our faiths a lot, especially for those who happen to be working and going paycheck to paycheck, stuff that has to come in monthly, right? Or you're a local business owner, or you're a local restaurant owner, things that are really, really, really struggling to kind of keep your head above water. I think all these things matter because it's a testing of your faith. Like, are we living in fear? Are we living in faith? God is faithful and will provide. And, it's never a no, always there with you. And so it's really, really, really interesting time, because I've even found myself, a couple times throughout whatever it's been, maybe like a month, a little over a month or so now. I found myself, my faith tested at times, and this is off season for me. It's not even really a stressful time. And I'm like, man, what is going on? Like, how do I cope with this? Like, my daughter's driving me crazy. I got to get out of the house. Like, what am I doing? I'm just like, I'm having a tough time, being able to cope with a lot of what's going on and being able to help. And it's breaking my heart seeing, a lot of the kids, that are just in an unfortunate situation. I mean, parents have to work. A lot of kids just in every area of every state use, school to get their meals. And now schools are shut down and they're not able to do that. And it's really a true test of, in my opinion, of like, what are we going to put our faith in? Are we going to put our faith in fear and in the unknown? Or are we going to put our faith in God, who we know provides and has always been consistent in providing and showing up for us, and, really resting in that? And I think that's the biggest thing. A verse that my wife and I have been studying for a while now, rest in John, and we've been reading just through the book of John, and just how that gospel just kind of separates itself from resting in that and trying to seek the Lord through all of this. And so it's just crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. How would you say your prayer life has been affected from COVID?
Oh, tremendously. Our prayer life has been, it's just been unbelievable. And both in the good and the bad. Like, I found myself like where I thought I had a good, like if you asked me this before all this happened, I'd be like, yeah, my prayer life's pretty good, and then with a lot of downtime, and like, I find myself bored more times than not. And I'm like, maybe my prayer life wasn't as good as I thought, because I can't pray for longer than like 2 minutes right now, and I have nothing to do, and it's crazy. It's, man, it's just so, it's, like I said, Taryn and I both have been trying to navigate and to find ways that we can help, in the best ways that we can. And it's been tough. And some of the messages that we get from our following on social media is so inspiring, though. I mean, we have like high school kids. I think Taryn posted something like, maybe a week ago or something, saying like, if you need anything, we can work, or, saved up a little bit, saying like, hey, if someone reached out, I'd love to help if I can too, like stuff like that. And so that's the type of stuff that we think is super encouraging. And like we said, testing of the faith, and just being able to, be men and women for each other.
Absolutely. A lot of Christians are praying Psalm 91 on a daily basis. And I wanted to encourage everyone on this call, if you haven't read the Psalms before, now is an excellent time to start reading Psalm, because it is David crying out in times of trouble and in times of victory. And when you read Psalm during this, it really comes alive, and it means so much more. And I would encourage everyone to check out Psalm 91. Another Psalm I'm kind of on right now is Psalm 34. And as I share this with people, everyone's kind of has their favorite psalm right now, but finding great hope in the Lord in this time. And if you are a believer, this is an opportunity to share your faith with people that are living in fear. I can't imagine not knowing the God that who is in control. And like you, Justin, like there's days where I'm like, wow, this is a lot. And not to throw my husband under the rug, but he's in the medical field. And so he's very in tuned to the COVID-19 updates. And for day, he's worst case scenario guy. And not that he doesn't have a strong faith in the Lord, but you got to be responsible and know what's happening in the world, but not let it cause you to fall into fear and stay there, and it's really tough. And so if the news depresses you, like, don't watch it, because there's ways to get updates and know what's going on without getting sucked into the depression of what's going on. And it's very real. Satan is having a field day with a lot of fear right now, that we get to choose if we're going to live in that or not. And so I would say, yeah, get your prayer life, try it out. Try praying for 3 minutes, try praying for 4 minutes, and see how you can challenge yourself, and just being quiet with the Lord and let him speak. Because I remember
a little bit.
I wanted to make sure.
Oh,
shoot. Is it all right?
Okay, I think we got you now. I'm making sure it wasn't me. I'm like checking the internet,
okay.
like I'm making sure it's not shutting down.
But it's a great time to be quiet with the Lord and hear from him. And you can't get a miracle unless you need one. And a lot of people want miracles, but they don't want to go through the process of needing a miracle, I guess. And so it's a great time to develop a quiet time, or just intimate time, whatever you want to call it. This is an opportunity for each of us to figure out what our true relationship with the Lord really looks like.
Yeah, no, that's so true. I think, and I love what you brought up in Psalm 91. It kind of reminds me of one of my favorite verses, honestly, a verse that I've really tried to study and just like really pour into is Colossians chapter 4, verse 2, kind of spilling over to verse 3. And it says, continue steadfastly in prayer, being watchful in it with thanksgiving. And then verse 3, it goes over to, at the same time, pray also for us, that God may open to us a door for the word to declare the mystery of Christ, on account of which I am in prison. And I think that verse is so cool. And I wish I could do a whole sermon on that verse.
Go ahead.
I think Paul, who, I mean, just when you talk about faith in general, I mean, Paul, I don't think it even comes close to anyone else other than it being Paul. And, writing this, Colossians being one of the prison epistles. And so obviously Paul writing this in prison, and just his faith in all of this. I mean, in verse 2, it says, continue steadfastly in prayer, being watchful in it with thanksgiving. And I think that right there is just the outline of like what prayer is like, right? And then he gives an example of that in verse 3. But in verse 2, I mean, continue steadfastly in prayer. I mean, whatever it is that you want to see change, right? Like whatever it is you want to see God move in, I mean, continue steadfastly in it. Like continue praying over it, continue having others pray over it with you and for you, and just have it on the forefront of your heart on the Lord, and just continue to ask him to pray in that. And you'll see, like, with consistency and with repetition, like, that's what God is inviting us to do, is just like, hey, try and wear me out with your prayers. Like, that's what I want. Like, I want a heart that is, on fire for others. And I want a heart that, is their prayer life is on fire for others. And then even when it spills in, and these are my favorite parts, being watchful in it, and that next key, being watchful in it, I think, and this is a really cool sermon. I'll say the only reason I know most of this is because I've watched a sermon on this video. The pastor's name's Brian Laritz, and it was an amazing YouTube video. If anyone wants to watch it, I'll type it in the chat, his name, but I think it's 2 R's. It might be that. No, that doesn't look right. Sorry. I wanted to make sure I did it before I forgot. You should be able to. Oh wait, how is it not sending it to? Okay, there we go. Okay, cool. Sorry, guys. There it is. Okay, it's something like that. It's like prayer. You'll see it because he's talking to a college. But anyway, being watchful in it, I love that part too because Pastor Luritz goes on to explain that the word watchful is used like eschatologically, which means it's having one eye on earth and one eye in heaven. And it's being watchful in that. And I think that's so cool. And he gives an illustration of his grandfather being a slave, but story be told that his grandfather was a praying man. And he goes on to say, how can a slave be a praying man? It's because he didn't have his eyes on his shackles. He had his eyes on heaven and his eternity, not on his current situation. And I think that's like so true even right now, and obviously everyone's degree of how they're handling this and what they're going through is at totally different levels. But I think the key in being watchful in what we're praying for is like, I want to pray for this, and this is a need, but I also know that, my life isn't marked on the temporary, but the eternal. And what that is in heaven. And then the last part of it with Thanksgiving. And I think that's the coolest way to kind of encapsulate and close it is just because, I'm going to pray steadfastly. I'm going to be watchful in it. But more than anything else, I know I'm talking to the God that moves mountains. I know I'm talking to the God that said, rise to Jesus in the grave on an early Sunday morning. I know I'm talking to the God that literally breathed air into nothing and made something from that. I mean, and I think that's so cool to think about. Like, we're literally talking and in relationship with a God that stepped out onto nothing and made something from nothing. Like, we make something from something, right? And we think that's so cool a lot of the times, and you see a lot of cool stuff being that, but he literally stepped out on nothing and made everything. And that's the God you're talking to. So when you approach it with thanksgiving and the understanding of like, he will make it happen. Like, he is going to make it happen if if it's for his glory and it's going to further the kingdom, like, it will happen when your heart's aligned with his. And so I think that's so cool, being able to have a relationship with a God that is thankful and has grace and has mercy. And I think that's so cool. And I think Paul gives a great example in verse 3. He says, at the same time, pray also for us that God may open to us a door for the word to declare the mystery of Christ, on account of which I am in prison. And if I had stopped that at the same time, pray also for us, I would have been like, oh yeah, of course, he's in prison. He wants us to pray for him to get out. He wants to be able to get out and to preach the word and what's comfortable environment for him. But that's not the case. He says that God may open to us a door for the word to declare the mystery of Christ, on account of which I am in prison. So he's not praying that the city in Colossians, he's not praying that they pray that he gets out. He's like, hey, pray that I'm in prison and that doors are open while I'm in here so that people can hear Christ on my account. So it's not necessarily, and obviously we like, I'm not saying like, don't pray that, obviously this epidemic doesn't go away, but let's kind of fine tune that and like, hey, like, what are the new ways that while this is going on that I can find ways to encourage and pray and lift up, people that I know are struggling, or I myself, like all these different things and avenues that we can, like, let's pray, in our situation and through it, instead of trying, I guess, like, not necessarily trying to pray out of it, but like, hey, we're in this, let's do this together. Let's find ways that we can pray and encourage and inspire. And so I don't know, that verse right there is like, we've really, just been in it, and like little details within everything of it, just because we feel like it's so relevant to what's going on right now.
That's so funny. I've been in Colossians for weeks as well. And one of my favorite verses I'm clinging to right now is Colossians 1:10. The end, it says, bearing fruit in every good work and increasing in the knowledge of God. And if you don't know what else to do right now, you can bear fruit and increase in your knowledge of God. Those are things you have control over. You know, we fear over the things we don't have control over. So we got to control the controllables. But Matt has another question for you, Matt.
No, yeah, I'm just seeing a lot of this in the chat. You guys are asking awesome questions, by the way. We'll get to a couple of them in just a second. No, but Justin, I mean, a lot of things are being taken away from everybody here. And I mean, I know that a lot of NCAA athletes had their sport cut short and their seasons just end. And a lot of high school athletes, like, they can't play their sport for the rest of the season. And a lot of professional athletes can't play their sport. And a lot of them are trying to lean back on really something that they don't really know. A lot of people who don't have God, they don't have that foundation that they can settle upon. So what's your encouragement to Christian athletes or people who don't necessarily maybe have a strong relationship with God when they have something like this taken away from them, of how they can lean back on the foundation of Christ and the cross?
Yeah, it's so good. You know, I think I can relate to this because that's part of my story. I was so in tune with my sport, right? Like, I think back to when I was in high school, and or if I was like a senior in college or something, and like my senior year got taken away due to, you know, obviously an epidemic like this. I would have been devastated. But at the time, like, I would have also considered myself, especially when I was a senior in high school, I was really a lukewarm Christian, but I would have considered myself, like, you know, on fire for the Lord. But I was so wrapped up in my sport and how I identified myself through my sport that, like, having that taken away from me would have been totally devastating. And so, not that, and I don't like being this way all the time, because I know it's like, oh, it's this guy, but like, I'm more of an optimist. And so I like to think, you know, I like to look at all the positives, and then, you know, I just get to the negatives at some point later down the road. But I would have thought, you know, what a blessing in disguise in some ways, trying to use my words carefully, because obviously an epidemic like this is not a blessing in disguise, but just in terms of the athletes that are struggling with, not having their sport kind of taken away from them. And obviously that hurts. Like, hey, if my season this year in the NFL gets taken away, like, that'll hurt. That'll definitely sting. And I would, you know, that's not speaking from an idle standpoint of football. Like, you know, that definitely hurts and that stings. And that's not something that, you know, I'm saying you can't feel that way, because you should, especially if you're passionate for your sport. But I also think there's that middle ground, you know, that kind of like that balance. It's like, well, you know, maybe, and like I said, I'm the optimist in it. Like, well, maybe the Lord was kind of saving in some way, you know, saving me from having a great season and then kind of thinking I can do everything on my own, right? Because that was me. You know, I had a great season my senior year, went on to college and thought, like, I don't really need God as much as I thought I did. Like, I can kind of do this on my own, kind of like that hardworking American type of mentality. If I work hard enough, like, I'll get anything that I want type of deal. And, you know, my story, anyone that's heard my testimony, I mean, God literally pulled the rug from out under me and just, you know, I landed flat on my face in my sport, you know, like my first 2 years at college, and that was like no good at all. And so for my athletes that are in here, or, you know, someone that, you know, a friend that is struggling with something like that that's going on, I would love to be a resource too. Like, I have nothing going on. I'm here at the house. I'm walking outside in 90-degree heat and humidity with my daughter and my wife at times. But if you want to just hop on calls, you know, that can be set up through Tina and whoever else. Like, if you want to hop on calls and just like chat, I would love to walk you through that, because it is difficult. But I think the biggest thing is to just focus and like I said, like, kind of like restructure our hearts a little bit to focus on the Lord. It's like, okay, Lord, I'm understanding and kind of hearing your message. And so I want to be a help. I want to be of service to others in this time. And I want to make sure that I'm spreading your love and your message as clear as possible, you know, without necessarily focusing on things that I got taken away. And so, like I said, that's something that I'm struggling with too, you know, not thinking about not having a season, you know, that's a year of whatever, not getting paid, not being able to do what I love, all this, all that. Like, I'm really, and Taryn has been challenging me in this, like really not focusing on that. It's like, okay, well, if this happens, what are we going to do? How are we going to help? How are we going to be inspiration? How can we make sure that we're actually living testaments of what we're preaching, you know? And so I think that's one of the biggest things. But for my athletes that are showing with that, yeah, please, if you want to talk, you know, one-on-one or in kind of like a setting like this where the majority of you are dealing with the same things, I'd love to do that. I'm not really doing much anyway, so I think it'd be fun.
Awesome. So I am bringing up another special guest that just logged in. Justin, do you know Prince Amukamara?
Oh, yeah, Prince.
Prince, where is he?
What? Is he in here?
Yes, he's in here. I'm trying to find him.
No
it won't let me
way.
unmute.
Look at him. I see him.
Do you see him?
Yeah, I see him. It's PRI.
I know. Where'd he go? So he's not a Bronco, guys, but he is.
He's on the
the
second
Bears.
page for me.
Is he?
Well, I'm in like the grid view, and he's on the second page, kind of like in the dead middle.
Where'd he go?
Yeah, go to the second one.
My
Prince,
boy,
where are
Prince.
you? I can't unmute. I'm trying to unmute. There we go. Hey, Prince.
What's up?
There he is.
How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. Just quarantined and taking all proper precautions like everybody else.
Awesome.
What's up, man?
Thanks for joining us today.
No problem.
How are you working out these days?
Well, our governor, he just put in the shelter in place, but you can still go hike and you can still work out. And so my neighbor down the street has a gym, so I'll run at like a school field and then go to the home gym and work out there.
So, Prince, for those on this call that don't know, can you share the impact FCA has had in your life?
Yeah, I tell everybody that so I got to my freshman football coach introduced me to FCA, and how he got me there was Krispy Kreme donuts and Tropicana orange juice.
Amen.
Yeah, I know. And so at first when I was there, I never really heard about Jesus or the gospel, and it wasn't until I got invited to like the sports camp in Arizona that they do every year. And, you know, the sports camp is like 500 kids, co-ed boys and girls with like 12 different sports. And it was just different there. We were starting huddles with Bible studies and breaking the huddles down with like, for his glory. And I'm thinking like, for whose glory and stuff like that. So I kind of felt like I was out of place. And it wasn't until like the last night where the speaker, he delivered something called the gospel, which is where I heard it for the first time. And basically, and after he gave the gospel, he showed a clip of Passion of the Christ. And I don't know if these young people on here seen Passion of the Christ, but it was this old movie that depicted what Christ went through when he was going to the cross for us. And so after seeing that and hearing the gospel, something was working inside me, and I went up to the altar and I gave my life to Christ. And then from there, I was on a spiritual high, and it's funny, like when you're on a spiritual high, you wanna read from Genesis to Revelations, like you want to get all the Christian music in you as you can, and that's where I was at. I try to read from Genesis to Revelations, and if you've tried that, you stop at either Leviticus, or for me it was Numbers, because all there was Numbers. And at that time, Chris Tomlin was the hot music artist. It wasn't Kanye, Jesus is Born. It wasn't Hillsong. And so I was, all this Chris Tomlin and stuff like that, and I kind of got burned out because there wasn't really no one to disciple me or to walk alongside me and teach me what it looked like to be a Christian. And it wasn't until college to where our team chaplain at Nebraska walked alongside of me. So I'm so grateful for FCA. I feel like FCA, I believe that like events doesn't save you, conferences doesn't save you, and FCA can't save you. But I do believe that Jesus did use FCA as a avenue to get me saved. And I go to the camp every year and try to get kids to go every year. So I'm very thankful.
Awesome.
That is, I'm trying to unmute Justin so he can talk. There you go. Wait. There you go, Justin.
Okay.
Do you have any questions for Prince? Our special bonus guest?
Yeah, right. No, I think that story is awesome, but no, I mean, I don't think there's any value that I would say that would add anything. I just love the kind of what he closed with was like, there's no special camp or, word phrase that, makes you saved. It's just a personal relationship with the Lord. And so I think that was the coolest thing that I liked from that.
I got a question for you guys. Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of this in the comments as well. A lot of people are asking, and Prince, Justin, you guys can both answer this question. What is the hardest part, or how do you guys deal with being a professional athlete and a Christ follower with all the social pressure, the pressure from the teams, from the league, money, or just whatever you guys deal with? How do you deal with that on a daily basis?
Do you want to go, Justin?
Go ahead, you're the special guest, man.
Bonus guest.
I feel like, I think it's all about just knowing your identity, right? So one phrase that's always been thrown around is just remembering that we're Christians who happens to be football players, not football players who happens to be Christians. So we look through the lens of Jesus Christ, like through everything. And it's not just football, it's off the field also. Like we look through the lens on how to be a husband, on how to be a son, on how to be a father, etc. And for me, I tell everyone that I never, like my mindset was always to go into the locker room as an undercover Christian, because I feel like if you walk in with your Bible, everyone's running away, right? And so for me, it's like, let me just be myself. Let me not force anything on them, but still be intentional. And so just so I can have a seat at the table. And so I feel like when guys hear that you're a Christian, they already have preconceived notions about you, and they already feel like they're being judged by you, and they can't be themselves. They can't be themselves. So I try to just live my life and let guys see like how I respond or how I go about work or how I treat my wife, so then they can ask questions and stuff like that. And I've seen that technique, if you want to call it, I've seen that pay dividends from guys going through tough times and just reaching out like, hey, can you pray for me about this? And I feel like just asking someone for prayer is like that can open a door too. It's funny, me and Justin have a similar teammate. You know Bryce, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we have a similar teammate who's like, he's the guy who just like, he played with me on the Bears. Now he's on the Broncos, and he's the guy who you can tell he's searching. He just has a lot of questions. So for me, I try not to just shut him down like, hey, no, that's not it. But it's just more like ask questions like, why do you think like that? And he broke his foot while he was with me in Chicago, and I feel like through that time he leaned on the guys who were believers and stuff like that.
Yeah, no, that's so true. I think those points, I mean, I couldn't have said it better myself. And just to kind of give a little bit more, backstory to Bryce. I mean, that's exactly it. Even this year, obviously Bryce had his foot problem in Chicago, right. And it kind of like re-aggravated itself in Denver. And I think that's when Bryce and I kind of like grew the most is, just checking up on him and seeing how he was doing. And I mean, we probably didn't even talk like the gospel really all that much, but just kind of like breaking down some walls, getting to know him a little bit more. Those conversations just flowed naturally. And it was funny because he's like, you know who you remind me of? I'm like, who? He goes, bro, you sound just like Prince right now. Dog. And I'm just, and it's just funny. It's just funny how it works. He goes, you guys are literally the exact same people.
Wow.
But it's so true. I think, you know, if I could add anything, I think I do the exact same thing when I'm with Denver. The number one thing is, you know, I want to make sure I'm standing firm in what I believe in, and making sure that I'm not giving any false sense of what I stand for, what I believe in, or the conversations that I want to be a part of. But I also think it's a part of, like, you know, meeting people where they're at, right? I think that's one of the things that Jesus does so well. Obviously a bunch of things, but like so well when he's just walking through his life in the scriptures. It's just like meeting people where they're at, you know, finding them in their lowest moments and raising them up, and the people that think they're better than what they are, you know, kind of checking them right then and there. And that's kind of, you know, what I wanted to make sure that I'm doing everywhere I go, or every locker room that I'm part of, or whatever, is just, you know, as Prince alluded to, like loving on people, making sure that they know, like, oh, hey, this guy, I have a stigma of what a Christian is, but he's not really meeting that stigma. Maybe it's cool to talk with him, and then through there develop a relationship, which hopefully leads them, you know, to a true relationship with the Lord. I think that's, you know, that's the biggest key of all. And I love what Prince said. You know, he said, I'm a Christian that happens to be an athlete, you know, not the reverse of that. And I think that's key. And you have that perspective, you know, it's good.
So guys, I want to share something. I was trying to get it in the chat box and it's not working, but I'm going to share my screen for everybody. And I just want to clarify the gospel, what we've been talking about.
Do it, Tina.
FCA likes to break it down simply with the 4, that God loves you, sin separates us from him. Jesus was sent to rescue us. And then we all get to choose, will you trust him? And if you are questioning or talking about wanting to get to know Jesus, or how you could get to know him better, we want to give you an opportunity to do that. If you text 1471 to 46322, again, text FCA 1471 to 46322. We're going to text you some information about your walk with Jesus. And we also wanted to let you guys know that FCA has just launched a brand new website called fca.org/virtual to help culminate all of our online resources for people for such a time as this. It's a great opportunity to figure out our curriculum that's out there. And I do want to get to some more questions, but Prince and Justin, do you guys have any fun undocumented stories that, you know, can only be found right here on this call that might be entertaining to our audience today? You know, some funny and just straight up NFL stories. Most embarrassing moment in the NFL. How about that? I'd love to hear that. You don't get, you know, these questions from, you know, Sports Spectrum and all these other people. Like, we want the good stuff.
The good stuff.
God.
Good stuff. Like,
I don't know.
I think you've tripped before on the field. I mean, you know, I don't know, something. Don't be shy.
I'm trying to think of a good story. You know, I don't want to give you just an okay one.
Right. I want a good one.
Dang,
Hey,
ooh.
while we're thinking about that, Prince, are you still with the Bears now?
No, I got fired.
You got, so is that a Prairie? Are we sharing Prairie Quest now?
I got fired.
I got fired like a month ago, so I'm a free agent right now.
You are free. Okay.
Trying to get him here. Trying to get him in Colorado.
Yeah. You want to come to Colorado? You look good in orange.
It makes sense. Both of my former coaches, Denver's head coach. So we're just waiting and we'll see.
Awesome.
Justin, make it happen.
I don't have much to say, but I'll try and call Vaughn.
I know.
I'll try and make
You
him.
got Elway's number, Justin. Dial it.
I don't know over there, but
I would say my story is it's not an well. It wasn't embarrassing, but I guess it was very comical, but because it went viral. So when social media was just starting up, like 8 years ago when I was in the league, I I guess I got thrown in the cold tub, and that went viral. So you can YouTube that. It was like a hazing thing. So that might be a little bit embarrassing. And then the other one was after I won the Super Bowl my rookie year, which is exciting, with the Giants in New York. I saw Katy Perry walk on the field because she did a halftime show, and I got extremely starstruck and got a picture with her. So I thought that was pretty cool.
A selfie with Katy Perry?
Yeah.
Well, can you post it?
Yeah, I can actually.
Come on, post it. I want to see it.
Can.
He's got it.
Yes, I can. He's like, I want you to see it.
Man, I don't have. Man, now I feel
Yep.
left out. I don't have a cool picture with a selfie with a celebrity.
Okay. Justin, but the NFL had to create a rule because of you. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, I guess that's.
I mean, that's pretty legit.
That's a pretty cool deal. So I'm assuming we have a bunch of football fans here, so I'll spare a bunch of the details. But long story short, we were playing. The Broncos are playing the Saints in New Orleans. Kind of like the midway through the season. The Saints just scored late in the fourth quarter. It's like a minute left, maybe less than a minute. It's a tie game, 23-23. So if they kick the extra point, they go up, and we have no timeouts. We would have been on offense. It would have been a, 2-minute situation to try and win the game on offense. And so when they go up to the extra point, we call up a play. It was literally called 31 Jump Street or something similar to that. It was literally called that. And
The young kids don't even get that.
I know. We jump. So I jump over the line, block the extra point, and Will Parks, the other safety that was drafted with me, picked it up and returned it. And so, for my football fans that know, that if you block an extra point and return it for whatever a score, you get 2 points. So it's basically 2-point conversion for you. And so you get 2 points. And so instead of being down by 1, we went up by 2, and we still get the ball on offense, assuming that they don't get an onside kick or something. But we got the ball on offense, and we just, ran the clock out, and we actually won the game when, the chances of winning that game at that point were very slim to none. So that's a cool little deal.
Superman Simmons was born.
Yeah. It's no Katy Perry selfie, but it's definitely up.
Which if you go to the chat room, Prince did post a link to that picture. So that's pretty great, Prince. Only right here on FCA Live.
Prince, that's a good day, man. That's a good day. You win the Super Bowl, and then you get to meet Katy Perry afterwards. That is a great day.
That's pretty cool. Oh, wait, he's muted. Why does this keep muting you?
I'm muted, man.
I feel everybody keeps getting muted. Prince, that's awesome. Thank you so much. We appreciate it. So where are you right now, Prince?
I reside in Arizona during the off season. Yeah.
So have you caught up with your FCA crew down there? See if they're still working?
Yeah, I actually did a post similar to this.
Oh, good. How'd you hear about this
last week? Yeah. So a guy by the name of Joshua Longoria, he disciples me. He's been discipling me for 2 years. I met him at FCA camp, and I feel like I've known him forever. So he's the one who gave me. I remember there was a game 2 years ago. We played against Green Bay Packers, like opening Sunday night football, and I had a great 3 quarters. And then Aaron Rodgers comes at me like 3 times, like throws a long ball and then scores on me, and then that steamrolled me. Ended up losing the game, and then my Twitter was blowing up saying I suck and all this. And so I was a little down on myself. And then the next week, Josh, we go through like a word every week, and we went through identity that week, and how I'm not my stat sheet, and it's not about who I am, it's about whose I am, and just little stuff like that. And so we played on Monday Night Football the week after, and I intercept Russell Wilson for pick 6. Yeah, to close the game. So Josh has really been helpful towards me, and I really appreciate our studies. So yeah, so he kind of like helped me with the whole identity thing. That's why it's so fresh.
Awesome. So Josh is our FCA guy in Utah. I'm sure he's on this call somewhere, but shout out to Josh. Thank you so much for inviting Prince today. And just a great reminder of how each one of us as a Christian need to be getting poured into and getting to pour out. And so Prince, I'm sure you share your wisdom with other people that Josh is pouring into you. And that is how Jesus told us to live, is to make disciples that make disciples, right? So you can keep doing that in this time. Call, Zoom, share your hope and your life with people that God has put in your heart right now. Maybe it's your neighbor, maybe it's your mailman or the FedEx dude. Who knows? Everybody needs hope right now in life. And we just thank you guys so much. We're sorry we went a little long today. You guys have some amazing questions. We're going to go post this on Facebook. Any last thing you guys want to share or say? We're so thankful for this time and just really, really happy this worked out so well.
Thanks for having me on. I'll do it anytime. I'm excited I got to be on.
Prince, how can we get you to Grand Junction? Grand Junction, Colorado. It's great, right, Justin?
It is great. It is a great drive over.
We have a good time. We need you to come visit, okay, Prince?
Yeah, I'll take you up on that offer.
Okay, you guys heard it here. But we are going to pray, Prince, for a new team for you, and we're really going to pray it's the Broncos. That would be amazing. That would
Appreciate it.
So we'll pray for you. Justin, anything else you want to say?
No, I'm so thankful for this, for everything that came on. And yeah, like I said earlier, for really for anyone, the invitations for anyone that just talk about anything, but especially for the athletes that may be, going through a difficult time in terms of not being able to finish, your sport in this particular season of your life. Like I said, I'm just at home, with my crazy 2-year-old. So I'm looking for an excuse every now and then to do something else. But I would love to, continue doing something like this. And like I said, Tina has my contact information, so it wouldn't be hard to get in touch and do something in a similar setting to this. So please.
Yeah, how best could people get in touch with you, Justin? Through Facebook, maybe?
I'm sorry?
How best could people get in touch with you?
Honestly, the best way would be is if they did it through you. I would say Facebook, but I don't really use Facebook.
Okay. Instagram? Something.
Yeah, I definitely use Instagram, and Instagram the most, Twitter second. Facebook I check and then get off. Like Facebook, if I'm super bored and I check it and then I get off. That's
that third layer of social media.
Exactly.
Awesome. Well, let me pray for you guys. We're going to pray for our time. Thank you all for sticking on. And this was just a great opportunity. Next Tuesday at 10:30, we're going to do this again with Tanya and Caleb Crevier. And they are world traveling famous basketball handlers. They were on America's Got Talent. So if you are basketball people, tune back in with us next week. We have lots of huddles going on online. FCA is doing stuff on Fridays, FCA.org. You can find our huddle up time. If you're a middle schooler, next Thursday, we're going to start a middle school huddle on Thursday mornings. And if you are a coach, we would love to start a 3-dimensional coaching time with you. We're going to start those up on Thursday nights. So stay tuned to our Facebook page, our website, Instagram, and we'll keep you posted on all that's coming up. But yeah, next Tuesday, get your basketball jerseys out, get a basketball. We're going to have a lot of fun with Tanya. She literally travels the world. She's available now too because she does NBA halftime shows, which also aren't happening. So everyone's available and happy to gather however we safely can. So we're going to do that. But thank you, Jesus, so much for this time. We just pray right now that your gospel would go forth. Father, we thank you for Jesus. We thank you for hope and for life. And Lord, that we could never lose you, Father, that you are always with us. You're the God of peace, the God of provision, and the God of protection. And we pray that, Lord. I do pray a special blessing today on Prince, Lord, that you would continue to give him a contentment and that you would lead him exactly where he's supposed to be when he's supposed to be there. I thank you for Josh. who is one of Prince's mentors. We just pray that for all of us, Lord, that each one of us would have a mentor and someone we're discipling, Lord. I pray that each one of us would grow in our faith during this quarantine, and that we would come out stronger and better than when we entered into it, Lord. We thank you for Zoom and for this technology. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thanks, guys. We'll see you later.
Amen.
I'm going to unmute all. So everyone say bye.
So just really, I'm not expecting 8 hours
Bye.
frank with you guys, you know. But I do expect for you guys to really drill down your top priorities.